Hi everybody, we're here for another round of Tea and Tarot with me, Madame Onca. I'm the artist and co-author of the World Spirit Tarot, which is now in its second edition. And this is the third in a series of blogs that I'm doing, walking through the cards one at a time and sharing their meanings. We're working our way through the aces, and today that brings us to the Ace of Swords. The decks that I'm choosing to work with as we go through the aces are the following. The Rider Waite Smith Tarot deck, which has a tremendous history and is interesting all on its own. The hilarious and very accessible riff on that, which is the Gummy Bear Tarot, which is also a US Games product, and it's the cutest thing ever. So basically the same deck, but made with gummy bears and simplified art. And then the slightly more complex deck that I made, which is the World Spirit Tarot. Incidentally, these are linoleum block prints. So the originals were about 8 by 10 and they were carved. So every one of these lines represents a reductive work piece that has been taken away to leave the black and white, and then it was hand colored. From what I understand, the originals of the Pamela Coleman Smith's deck were lost in one of the world wars. So unless somebody knows something about that I don't, we will never see quite how she might have done them if she was here with us today. So let's talk about swords. Swords, of course, represent the powers of air and the intellect. With the intellect, we find that we are looking at rational decision-making, fact-finding, due diligence, speedy intelligence, and also I find that communication is a huge part of what is referred to with these cards. It was probably true, hundreds of years ago, but it's certainly true in these times when communication, information is power, and everything is happening as fast as possible. Also, I find that these frequently refer to boundaries, particularly when I'm working with female clients or culturally disenfranchised clients who have not been encouraged to have a lot of personal boundaries. So it's all about boundaries. So let's walk through these cards. So we see in this traditional, the Rider Waite or the Rider Waite Smith, again, her work as a product of its time and a product of the assignment she was given as an illustrator. There are Christian overtones to her work, almost Arthurian overtones, I guess you might say. And in this case, the golden crown is intended to represent spirit. So that is spirit crowning intellect at its best, and all these little doodads here, these cute little things. This is the Hebrew letter Yod. And the sense that you see with this card is expansiveness. There's a sense that this mighty tool, this mighty power of intellect, decision, and strength is over the whole landscape. I find that at its best in the swords cards, that is manifest as what we would now think of as like the computer hacker. It is the sense of a person or a personality, the strength, the ability to see an entire system rather than just the thing that is immediately in front of them. So the swords, with their broad, expansive vista, really describe the aces describe what is best. You're taking the pure potential of the suit. And the question that comes up when you are seeing the Ace of Swords a lot of times is, what decisions are in front of you? How would you choose to shape your life or actions, your course of action, based on the tools that are available to you? And because it is the double-edged sword, on the one hand you have powerful communication and truth and justice, on the other hand we have the potential to enforce tyranny and dogma. So the card doesn't tell you which way to go, but I would. So there we have, there's the traditional version. We see the simplified, oh so cute version. For some reason this artist has chosen to eliminate all of the foliage, which has its own symbolism, but I have to say looks kind of like kelp. So in this case, again, you just see a sort of streamlined, and there's a lot more greenery in here. I think that this artist made a choice to sort of warm the whole feeling of the card up. So then we come to this version. Again, by choosing steep and snowy mountains, I was really hoping to illustrate that notion of expansive vision, of really being able to see the whole thing and make powerful choices. There's a lot of dynamism. That moon, you see it down to just a little sliver because this card is not particularly about intuition. It is really about leaning into the rational part of your brain, or your mind, rather, and making the best decisions that you can. Again, communication. This card's all of these cards come up when when it's about tact, diplomacy, how you communicate, your end goal in your communication, when and where it is appropriate to say, I cannot compromise in this point, but I can compromise in that point, and when to choose to match the powers of the mind with instinct. Like when to go for pure logic. You know, the dilemma with pure logic is that the swords card without balance say we should build the biggest bomb we can because we can. Whereas if you take that same power and you match it with some of the powers of the other elements, you might say, we could build the biggest bomb. Is that what we want to do? Are there reasons why we might not do that? Or science or power for their own sake, or intellectual pursuit for its own sake, is that enough? Again, the cards don't judge, but for a well-rounded existence, whatever that is for you, I encourage you to weigh the powers of the swords cards relative to other things. So when these cards come up, it's basically saying you are on the brink of some incredible decision, some incredible project, some incredible opportunity to take action in the realm of air. So communication, boundaries, and decision making. They're powerful, and they're the most benevolent expressions almost of the swords, because after this it actually gets pretty thick in the weeds in the swords cards. So the time has already flown by. Gotta go. But again, my name's Madame Onca, and we see here today 3 different iterations of the swords cards. We will work on pentacles in the next one, and then as we move further along into the minor arcana, I'll actually bring some other decks out to show and talk about as well. Feel free to contact me on the internet if you have any questions. I'm on Facebook at World Spirit Tarot by Lauren Onca O'Leary. I have hardestworkingwomaninshowbusiness.com as my website, and I'm on Etsy and all the things, Patreon. So thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing more next time.
That was awesome.